dokie.
Let's start, Travis.
Let's start.
Yeah.
So think about this. How often are you alive when the dawn of a new medium comes out? I knew that I had to be a part of VR because there are no rules for what VR should be. Starship Commander is a choose-your-own-adventure VR narrative that uses natural language processing so you can actually have a real conversation with the characters.
I'm Sergeant Sarah Pearson. I've been assigned to your wing today.
When we started making Starship Commander, we had to figure out how do we get technology that can understand what a person's saying so that we can have these new narrative experiences. We're a science fiction game. We come up with new words. No off-the-shelf software could let us put in custom words.
Who are the Echnians?
In our story, the bad guys are called the Echnians. And every time we said Echnian, you would come up with really weird words that were similar to other things that you would say. And so it would get confused all the time. So we needed to make sure that we could supply our own script. We started using Microsoft Cognitive Services to power the back end of Starship Commander.
Looks cool.
Once we plugged custom speech service into Starship Commander, I had tears in my eyes when I was playing it because it's like, oh my God, this is it. This is the experience we want.
Open the hatch.
Voice print accepted. Welcome, Commander.
You can essentially put your script in there and it knows, oh, these are the ways that people are gonna talk. And these are the phrases that they're gonna say.
Cool. What's my mission?
Must be something pretty important.
And then the second thing too was the intent detection. With Lewis, you basically give it a couple statements. After you've given it a couple statements, you crunch it and you start typing in your own statements, and it's shockingly scary how good it picks up, even stuff that you didn't put in there.
Computer, use autopilot, and let's be on our way.
Autopilot engaging.
I've never seen an opportunity like this, where there's a wide open playing field, no one's written the rules yet, there's gonna be tons of amazing software out there, and I just can't wait to see what other people write.
So hopefully the next Resident Evil, when the zombie's running at me and I say, get out, it actually gets out of the room. But what's really, truly amazing is the endpoints that the cognitive services teams are putting out. They're absolutely mind-blowing at the moment.
Welcome everyone on board for Data Analytics Kickoff Session. This is the second session we are running. Just to give you a brief introduction about myself and Travis. Something like that?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
User error.
Okay, sorry about that. So just to give you a brief introduction about myself and Travis, we both are technical solutions specialists based in Microsoft Australia. We are the owners of Data and Analytics Track this year. And we have privileged, I feel myself, and personally Travis as well, that to run this show in front of you all. So, Travis.
Okay, so let's get started. We live in a world which is striving for artificial intelligence. But I want you to ask yourself, what is artificial intelligence? Better yet, ask yourself, what is AI? It's always been the promise of doing things we do on our own, but in a much more efficient and powerful way. It's the voice of your customer asking for an experience which is guided with intelligence. It's what we like to call an interwoven intelligence. If you think about our offerings, take Azure SQL Database, our platform as a service offering. We can take your database and automatically apply indexes and disable them on the fly using machine learning algorithms. Skype has had real-time translation for a couple of months now, solving a problem that many families fight on a daily basis. Cortana represents a vision for bots that are so innately personal that we embrace a new medium without hesitation. I mean, I sit at home now and I get yelled at if the term Xbox On doesn't turn on the TV. It's a form of naive intelligence, but it's expected now. Above all, though, artificial intelligence can only happen with information. It doesn't take the raw data, but it's information that is driven through an end-to-end process that involves many people along the way.
So all the companies, whether big and small, everyone is innovating, and they pretty much need to adjust with the evolving patterns. And every pattern needs new services. If I look into the Azure Data Services business today, we have more than 20 services which you can take advantages of. A few of them I just want to quickly glance through. Like we have Cognitive Services API, which you can use in your application, and just few lines of code, you can build a very powerful app without even knowing anything about machine learning. But if you want to build a high-end predictive model, you can actually use our cloud-based analytics tool, which is Azure Machine Learning. Now let's look into the data stores. We have categorized the data store in two buckets. One is data stores, and one is big data stores. It makes our life easier, actually, because the amount of change is happening in this space. So under data stores, we have the same SQL Server, which is on-premise for a decade, the same engine we have in the cloud under Azure SQL DB, where the high availability, DR, everything is inbuilt. We even have a geo-replication inbuilt. Now, we also have enterprise-grade NoSQL database, which is a document DB, which allow you to build a globally distributed apps. Finally, from the big data stores, if you're going beyond 100 terabytes of data, where you need to play around with petabytes of size of files, want to do store and analytics at the top of it in near real time, we have Azure Data Warehouse along with Azure Data Lake. We also have with the HD Insight, which is a new service we have, which is there for pretty much almost a year now. You can actually have an Apache cloud. You can actually provision a server in our cloud.
Yeah, now 20 plus services means a lot of learning. For those people like Suresh and Poinavo, they're new patterns, but one thing we don't put on those slides is that they're ever-evolving patterns. They're evolving over time, and development cycles are getting a lot shorter now. One way, though, that we collectively bunch these group of services is in a suite we call the Cortana Intelligence Suite. Now, the Cortana Intelligence Suite, it serves a mission for our customers. Our customers want to transform data into action and reinvent their business processes. Some of our customers want to more easily analyze hundreds of data points, massive amounts of data, just to view what happened, understand why it happened, be able to predict what will happen, and ultimately answer that golden question of what should I do? It's only then that they can create that sense of interwoven intelligence inside their customer's experience.
So this platform actually enabled the customers to interact with the devices, whether it's a mobile, tablet, what are the devices you're using in a day-to-day life, more intuitively with respect to the natural language, conversation as a platform. So it's evolving from where we used to be, from touchpad, from mouse, keyboard, to more near-human capabilities like fingerprint, gesture, emotion recognition. So it's changing. That's what we see. So what we look into today, looking at the number of data services, what we have today and what it was earlier, we need a different skill set from a different discipline. And hence, we were going to talk about that as well in quick seconds. Okay. Yeah. So some of the roles, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen that, like we have the same analysts, DBAs, we have data scientists and data engineers. I think the two new roles which has come recently are the data engineers and data scientists. But all the roles are still, which was highly relevant in the on-premise world. It's still highly relevant even in the cloud world. How? We're going to talk about that shortly.
So first, we're going to look at the data scientists and the analysts in terms of which services in the Microsoft stack they favor, and especially our Azure services as well. Now, the data scientists, we speak to data scientists and we find that they love the challenge of finding the highest scoring algorithm for a given problem set. To do this, it's becoming increasingly only able to be done with massive amounts of data, very varied data at the same time. What's phenomenal to see is actually their willingness and openness to share their algorithms, their IP with each other, just to find a higher algorithm. The tinkering of these algorithms requiring massive compute power is leading to a realization. And that realization is that they need their own environment. Call it an experimentation playground. This is why they look at things like Azure Data Lake and Azure HD Insight as a separate environment from the business warehouse that the general business is using. On this, they developed their world-class algorithms in their favorite languages. Think Python, R, Spark. Another one which I learned the other day, BrainScript, if anyone's heard of that. But above that, what they truly get intrigued by is the algorithms that sit inside our Azure Cognitive Toolkit. Things like feed-forward classification and another one called FastRCNN. Those are the two that they'll really resonate with, and there's a lot more today for them. The other thing is data scientists understand the inner workings of algorithms, but not necessarily how to operationalize them. And that's where they look to the data engineer. Now I want to flip across to the analyst. I was in a meeting the other week, and it was that classic scenario where marketing was standing there and they were about to strangle IT. The only glue that got us through the meeting was a lovely analyst who sat there and was able to translate the alien IT speak into the language that the business understood. Yep. Analysts are being seen increasingly to be the subject matter experts of the inner workings of business and the KPIs, and also holding the ongoing conversation with IT to enable their sponsorship within all analytical activities. With this subject matter expertise, analysts are becoming the perfect custodians for services like Azure Data Catalog and even modeling inside of Power BI. With the introduction of Power BI into SSRS 2016, we strongly think that analysts will be the influence to minimizing IT's involvement in enterprise BI development.
So let's look into the DBA world. That's getting really interesting today. If I look into the DBAs, they were the kings and the queens of performance tuning optimization. They are pretty much the core people whom the business rely to make sure the queries run always exactly the same throughout the year to meet the SLAs. They take care of the high availability, they take care of the disaster recovery along with the IT infrastructure team. But today with Azure SQL DB and even the NoSQL service with Document DB and whatever we have as a service, pretty much everything is inbuilt. We have high availability inbuilt, DR inbuilt, we have auto-indexing, automatic performance detection, threat detection, pretty much everything is inbuilt. Now the question is how that role gonna stay. Pretty much whenever I deliver a workshop at the customer side, this question always comes, how our roles are getting involved. Now, if you look into the Cortana Intelligence Suite, we have pretty much like more than 15 different data services, and most of the parts are at the intelligence space, which is going to be tightly getting integrated at the top of your data. So getting insights, that is the key thing. So DBA role will still be relevant along in tandem with the analyst, what we have today. So that we will see a market for them even in near future.
Like I said before, data engineers work closely with data scientists. And definitely what we're noticing is that data engineers have a strong coding background. It's this coding mentality that allows them to adapt to the ever-evolving new languages. They tend to gravitate towards languages like our new language, USQL, which is a mix between C# and SQL in our Azure Data Lake offering. They build the pipelines for Data Factory, and they operationalize those world-class algorithms that come out of that experimentation playground. As this happens, the data scientists will work closely, the data engineers work closely with the data scientists, and ultimately they move data from the lake to the warehouse and to the end user. They're the ones who go in and get the data out of the sensors from those archaic sensors and through to the business at the end of the day. In the process, they light up interesting experiences like bots, which actually enthuse the customers as well. Now, what we want to do now was actually take you through some of the sessions that we have planned for Ignite. And what we did this year is we divided them into 5 areas, like Sudarshan talked before. The first area is data. The second area is big data, so much larger data. The third area is data transformation. The fourth area, analytics or intelligence. And the last one of visualization. So why don't we dive straight into them?
Yep. So this year, Travis and I really spent a lot of time in selecting the session. We had almost 150 session submission, and we need to nominate 23 sessions, I think?
Yeah,
that's what we need to nominate. It was pretty rough and challenging as well, but at the same time, pretty much we went inside the business pretty quickly. So let's talk about what are the deep dive session we have. So we already released SQL Server 2016 last year, and it was a massive release. The Gartner rated us as #1 in the operation database space, ahead than our competitors. But now the question which we hear, what next? What's about the vNext program? So what about the SQL on Linux? What's coming in SQL 2017? So we're going to have a session directly from our COP speaker who's going to run a deep session on what's the vision and roadmap looks like in SQL space. Along with that, the new features, the cool features, the great features which we have introduced in SQL 2016, some of them like hybrid data model, like stretch database, updated column store index. We're going to have some sessions on that as well. We are running first time a case study purely based on user case throughout the globe about updatable column store index. The people who are completely want to have, who are completely from DBA background will get a real outcome out of this.
Flipping across to the NoSQL fans in the room, we have 2 sessions on DocumentDB. The first session is more of a hello world for DocumentDB. It's the one to introduce you to DocumentDB if you've never seen it before, and how to set up. The second one is a deep dive with DocumentDB, and this one will go through partitioning and modeling inside DocumentDB, which is so crucial when you look at situations like scaling out with the NoSQL solution. The next ones are our big data store deep dives. And we've grouped them into 3 different product areas there. One is Azure SQL Data Warehouse, and then the others are HD Insight and Data Lake. For Azure SQL DW, we have 3 sessions. The first is on Polybase, and if you haven't heard of Polybase, go check it out. We're lucky and fortunate enough to have the owner of Polybase from an engineering point of view be down here to give that session itself. The next one is designing for big data with Azure SQL Data Warehouse. So if you've never used Azure SQL Data Warehouse or you are using it today, this is how you can get some gems on how to actually architect it and design your solution. The next area, which I love the title of when they submitted it, is why is my SQL DW query slow? So performance and optimization, crucial for everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Travis. So we also have session and the big data perspective, like HD Insight Service, Azure Data Lake. So we're going to have a demo session of creating a HD Insight pipeline that can handle petabytes of streaming data, and you can do a near real-time analytics at the top of it. It's pretty much exciting. And also, which pretty much get complemented by a best practice and big data solution in Azure Data Lake. We're going to have a session on that as well. Now, we spoke a lot about cognitive services. We spoke a lot about the data store. Now, what's about the data transformation? So we used to have a tool known as SSIS, which were a very mature tool for data transformation. So we are having session on what's coming next, what we are releasing next in SSIS. With Azure Data Factory is another cloud-based data transformation tool, which talks a lot about how you move the data and do the transformation, mostly integrated with the big data solution space, which HD Insight and Azure Data Warehouse. So we're going to cover that as well. All the sessions which we are talking right now, they're all deep dive level 400 sessions.
Yep. The last area is actually, we're going to have the Power BI team give a data transformation session. And it's going to be on the editing experience for queries inside of Power BI Desktop and what we call Power Query, which sits inside Excel. So having a look at how the analyst actually does transformation themselves. It's kind of mind-blowing to see the capabilities that they can do just from a click of a button.
Yep. Now, let's go to intelligence. We spoke about the cognitive services. We have pretty much released 21 APIs, which we have, like speech API, emotion API, recognition API. There are a lot of APIs which you can actually inbuilt in your application and become a very powerful application very quickly, just in the few lines of code. So we are going to have a session on that. It's a pretty demo-heavy and pretty fun session because I have seen the demos which we're going to show you directly. It will be by some local solution architects based in Australia who are driving this. Really cool. It's a deep dive, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun.
Hoping for audience participation in that one. The next one, for any data scientists in the room, we have a session on R, Microsoft's R server, and doing analytical workflows inside of it. So if you're a data scientist, please go to that session. The person presenting it is a hardcore data scientist as well. The next one is on the bot framework. I'm lucky enough, I'm presenting it with Dipanjan as well. So we're going through basically tips on how to build bots and tips that will make them successful at the end of the day. So we're going to do a little bit of 100 at the beginning to show you how to build the bot, but it's going to be really catered towards designing that bot for success at the end of the day.
Yeah. So, Power BI.
The last one, yeah. The last one is kind of our immensely popular Power BI and in the visualization space. So for Power BI, we have 3 sessions for this conference. One is Power BI architecture, best practices, and performance tuning. When you think about your rollout and deployment of Power BI, how are you going to deploy it out in a way that's following a best practice? The next one is Power BI for the enterprise. Safely sharing your data. I quote you not, I've been in some horrendous situations this year with companies where I don't know if the person's still at the company the way they shared it. Power BI for the developer is the last one. And this is really guided at how do you get your story out there. When you're building external applications for your customers today, how do you put analytics, how do you put visualizations into them? How do you really drive that and give that intelligence out to them? So this will go through things like Power BI Embedded and show you how to do that embedding process and going a very deep dive into it as well.
So finally, we are having a session tomorrow evening at 6:30 p.m., right, Travis?
6:30 p.m.
Yeah, it's something different. It's known as Ask Me Anything. It's a session where you can ask any question which is not in the public domain, any question which you have with respect to product feedback, any question on roadmap. We can talk about it. You can directly interact with our product team. So we have 12 speakers panel, and also the local speaker panel will be available to ask you any question.
Yep.
Again, no laptop, no PPT, no demos, as you can see, been written in the slide already. But feel free to ask any question. Don't give a hard time to the speakers, but feel free to ask any question.
Yeah, but really narrow down. You'll notice that, read that point too. It says ask the questions you've always wanted to ask, the ones that can't be answered on the FAQ.
Yep.
So I'm going to have someone sitting over in the side of the audience looking up the FAQ as you ask the questions. There's pressure. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just
Which is in the public domain, don't ask us questions. Ask something completely unique.
The other part is we are going to make sure that it's not recorded as well. So this one won't be going online just because we want the engineers to have the freedom to speak a bit deeper around the areas. And you can ask some more gritty questions to them as well.
Exactly. So let's talk about some of the case studies which we initially said we're going to talk about it, about what's happening, real life implementation with respect to new Azure Data Services and also with respect to SQL.
We're going to start off with this one, and before we start them, I'm just going to say all of them have had the customer's name removed from them, so it's a bit of a guessing game for you to figure out which customer it is without us telling you. The first one is a retail company, and they're in the food space. They have a global presence as well. They came to us with a challenge, and they said, we want to handle online orders from 2,000 stores across Australia, New Zealand, Japan, the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, and France. The other way their devs think about it is we want guaranteed throughput for the application. And we want that globally accessed, distributed, through a low latency approach. So for this, they actually, as a solution, used DocumentDB. DocumentDB allowed them to have a globally distributed database with what the developers wanted, which was that guaranteed throughput. They actually, on top of that, actually went through their whole online system from website down to POS systems, and have actually now replaced the whole system with PaaS services. So from Service Bus to DocumentDB to Azure websites sitting on top. It's purely platform as a service now to all those locations.
Yep.
With this, the solution lands with, they had that active deployment across a global footprint. Active. It's the first service on Azure to be like that. The other one is the reliance against natural disasters there. But the last thing which was really impressive, which was really good, was that they had an improved reliability, but above that, a faster order processing time than the previous SQL on infrastructure as a service IaaS solution.
Exactly. So there's another solution. It's one of the major real estate organization across the globe. It's definitely not Australia, like realestate.com or domain.com. They have a database of 100 million properties, and they want to expose that to dynamic search. And the current performance which they are getting whenever the users are running query, like 15 minutes or sometimes on dynamically 7 minutes, which was not what they expected. So the challenge was to bring that below 10 seconds, because these are not operational queries, they're pretty much pretty large queries. So that's what we achieved with SQL Server with the changes, like we create a hybrid model. We have a row store, we have a column store. With the column store indexes, with the spatial indexes, because a lot of data are based on the data, GPS data as well. So it was a really good, unique solution. We're gonna talk about in more detail when Sunil, one of our program manager from US, is flying down here and going to run a deep dive session on that. Whoever the DBAs or data engineers, I think it's a must watch. We're gonna talk about in more detail, but just to give you a heads up, it was a great outcome which we achieved by the changes what we have incorporated in SQL.
The next example is contextual searching of a large set of research papers. Research institutes and organizations, they have one thing, which is they have a large number of research papers sitting in some repository, ready to be indexed. For them, they came to us with a question, which was, we have our researchers who develop their research papers. And if you ask those scientists/researchers, what's the difficult part? They'll say, when I'm commencing my study, how do I find the topic for that study? I've got to know what has been done before, because I've got to build on top of that. I can't write the same thing at the end of the day. The way they would do that in the past is to do a lookup of the name of the article. But we know the contents, don't judge a book by its cover. The contents could be very different. Yep. So they came to us with that question. And what they did is they leveraged our cognitive search APIs in combination with machine learning and our big data services to basically provide our scientists with that easy search ability. On top of that, it was based on intent as well. So what they did is they looked at the whole all of the paragraphs inside of the research paper and ran a machine learning experiment to basically categorize it and pull out the main themes of the article. On top of that, they also said as well, the website is getting a bit boring for the researchers to interface with. Why don't we do something unique and different for them? For this, they implemented a bot, and the bot was implemented to deploy out to the web, to Skype, to SMS, or chat interfaces as well. So that intent the search-based intent, and being based on context, not merely the text in the search criteria.
Finally, we spoke about cognitive services APIs, right? We have APIs for emotion APIs, text-based API, we have research APIs. So one of the API we use, like speech API, incorporated into bots, where we actually replace the IVR facility with the bots. It's pretty much the solution was really good, means it actually reduced their processing time from 40 minutes for a student form to 15 minutes. That was a big outcome. And the call center generally have a timing where you have to call them between the business hours, but with the bot, you can actually get things done anytime and also on any device. That's the beauty of it. So we actually got a really good outcome, which is become in production. It's one of the customers in Australia, but we are enhancing this in other projects which they have.
Yeah. And we like to say it's that thing of how easy it is to teach a person in a call center to speak 23 languages. Let's challenge a bot to do it. But be understood that involving bots inside the business is definitely a change in culture for the business. Yep. Okay, that's what we had. All we had planned for you. The thing we will say, we've got a little bit to talk to just now, but so to win a drone, Sudarshan and I are trying to figure out how we can enter, but we're pretty sure we can't, so you're lucky. To win a drone, complete the past session evaluation, and then ASAP, as soon as possible. Don't know why it's ASAP, but there you go. So session evaluation, and of course, very high scores, please.
Yeah.
Yeah? No. Okay.
To end off, thank you for coming here. It's a great pleasure and it's a privilege for both of us to run and own the data analytics session this time in Ignite 2017. The way we have designed, you can get the breadth and depth of each and every session. I hope you enjoy it. Please give me your feedback because your feedbacks are very critical and important for us so that we can improve and we can incorporate further changes.
Yep.
Whatever the things you're seeing today are being incorporated based on the feedback we received from the past year. So please feel free to give your feedback. And thanks again. Me, Sudarshan Roy.
And I'm Travis Sansom.
We welcome on board for Ignite 2017. Thank you.
Come chat with us in the speaker lounge in the data platform booth if you want to find us.
Yep.
But otherwise, go craft your own destiny and go enjoy the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.